Okay, can you see my screen and hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And as you can see, this is a fantastic collection of presentations, and we are all very interlinked. But I will look at the market design to support the energy transitions, and I specifically looked at modeling to support decision and policy making. So we are very much aligned. My name is Andrew Kilmartin. I'm supervised by Dr. Harry van der Weyde, and I'm from the University of Edinburgh Institute for Energy Systems. And sorry. Okay, sorry, presentation overview. The ENSYSTRA project is broken into 4 work packages, and I just wanted to highlight that. I belong to work package 4, policy and market design, but we've heard from the energy system modeling work package, but we will also hear later from technologies and also from active behavior. And you can see that's the strength of this project, is we have 15 PhD students researching all these different areas that we're all exposed to. But I focus on modeling to make good investment decisions and good policy. And my journey it's been fantastic over the last 3 years. I've looked at the Energy Union, Green Deal, looking into energy systems and how we model those, what reforms were anticipated and how we can model that. And then to look for a framework so that we can assess how are these decisions made? How do we incorporate risk and uncertainty into this decision process? But we also need to look at the policy process, as we've alluded to earlier, and how our research approach can impact this. So one of the results for me was to look at how do we start a decision dialogue and how do we implement the policy. And most importantly, at the end, I'll look at how can we work with the investment plan, the Green Deal. What are we trying to do? We are trying to provide research to support the energy transition of the future. And this schematic from Arup is an energy system of 2035, but we can see there is a drive to electrify. There's a drive for other energy carriers to introduce hydrogen at huge scales, to import energy, to export energy, which we do, but to have better control of that, to have more interconnection, but also to introduce more storage. And another area that we've also addressed in the modeling session is the sector coupling. And this will affect the demand. So we've got to look at the supply and demand of this energy system and how we interconnect across regions and other countries. So my journey started with the Energy Union and the Green Deal. And the Energy Union, we were looking at a fully integrated energy market, a low carbon energy, and we are focusing on the research to support that. And we will get some gains from efficiency initially, but as our energy requirements increase, or as energy is used, maybe additional energy for carbon capture, etc., we may lose those efficiencies, and we have to learn to balance that supply and demand. We also have to keep an eye on energy security, which is not considered within the agencies that deal with energy. To achieve the Energy Union, we set some targets. These were set in 2020 and 2030. So for gas emissions, renewable integration, getting those efficiencies, funding to support this. An area I'm focusing on is the interconnection, a target for 2020 and 2030. And also we will start to address the CO2 from transport in the future. But further to this, the Green Deal transpired. How to transform the EU's economy. And what was interesting for me, this is very much based on the Sustainable Development Goals, but for me, this was how we would finance the transition, and it would be a just transition. So we need to consider all options and opportunities on the table. And we have overachieved in some areas, or we've had to increase those targets, a stretch target. So for 2030, say for gas emissions, we've increased to 55% reduction. Fit for 55 is the campaign. Whereas the world, they're trying to set that at 45% for 2030. And we have achieved, or we've achieved our 2020 targets in most areas, and we've kept those stretch targets in most areas for 2030. But on the interconnection side, we did not achieve the target of 10% of interconnection, which is a representative capacity, generation capacity between countries. And they introduced an additional measure that by 2025, we need to achieve 70% utility of interconnectors. So that led me to think, well, are we making the right decisions? Did we scope? Did we get the decision process correct on bringing interconnectors into the energy system? So I started to look at how do they screen and approve projects and finance and look at the funding. And that brought me to the cost benefit analysis that they use for investment projects. And this was important for me so I could see from the modeling side where those results would be used and brought into the approval stage and to receive funding and to get the green light. So I had to address how do we model and what are the market designs we're trying to achieve. So I started to look across the North Sea region. We are focused between 3 countries, Norway, UK, and Netherlands, and we could look at the supply and demand in each country, the interconnection between these countries, and the storage capability and generation capacity in each of these countries. And on the right-hand side, you can see that's the gas network of the North Sea region. And that we will have different energy vectors in our energy system. So for the market reforms, they have proposed that we must help energy cross borders to decarbonize through interconnectors, that we need to integrate sustainable and renewable energy sources. We need a lot more storage to do that. And one of the key market reforms was to empower the consumers or prosumers, those who produce and consume electricity. So when we looked at the energy system modeling, the top down is predominantly associated with policy, while the bottom up is associated with technical rich detail, investment opportunities. And this is the area where I focused my research, looking at equilibrium models, but I also compared to other PhD students, their modeling approaches to see which modeling approach was most suitable. So the market modeling, we've set up some simplistic models to get some insight. We wanted to see what were the effects of interconnection and storage. What was the interaction between interconnection and storage? Did interconnectors reduce market power? Does market power exist when we introduce storage? And what investment opportunities, if we have an investment level in our modeling, what investment opportunities exist? But from a decision point of view, how is this decided? How are they screened and how are they selected? So where are our results used? So on the right-hand side from Ventosa, these are different market modeling, energy market modeling, and these are the different models that we are comparing. But I needed a framework to bring all of this together. And at first I looked at decision-making from a risk perspective, how we have informed decision makers. And then I moved into the engineering economic aspects, decision methodology of how we structure, how we set up the model and how we analyze that model. But we also can look further into opportunities for flexibility and uncertainty beyond deterministic analysis. What if we approve a project, but we do it later, we do nothing now? What's the impact of doing nothing now? And we also look at how do we reduce uncertainty? How do we pay for that extra information or to get confidence in our decision process? But I went back to the political, I'm an engineer, but I went to the political science. It's not the dark side, but I went to the political science side and I looked at, well, how do they develop policy? What do they want? And they needed a policy process, has a cycle where they look at getting that on the agenda, the energy transition, and how we formulate a response, which was how our modeling came in, how we adopt that, how we sell that to the public, how we implement it. And that's where we'll see the projects approved or the market mechanisms introduced. But something in addition is I found this didn't address decision-making specifically. And it also, there's a plethora of research on this, on energy transitions, but we may be in danger, and this is what I refer to in Palka, the honest broker, we may be in danger of all becoming issue advocates, and we end up having camps, and we're not making the decision based on the results, but it's more bias or overconfidence or optimism. And that's why we need to focus on becoming the honest broker of policy alternative. And I also thought, well, what if we can't achieve honest broker? How do we control it? How do we make sure we're assessing this without bias? And that brought me to bring all of these elements together. And to review this, we introduced the decision quality cycle. And decision quality would help us confirm what we're deciding, what choices are out there, what consequences do we have the right information, what consequences do we care about, are we thinking straight, will we take action? But we didn't just stop at the decision quality, which allowed us to have the review. We moved into decision dialogue, and decision dialogue allows us to take it from a significant decision level to a strategic decision level. And it helps us address the complexity, the organizational complexity with energy systems across the European Union, as well as the analytical complexity that we require to support these models.
Andrew, can you please conclude?
Yes. So that allowed me to develop a framework that looked at decision process to introduce more decision analysis. And this is similar to portfolio analysis, where we have a stakeholder board and a project team, and we could overlay a policy process into that. We could then make sure we have sufficient decision analysis when we're looking at the models and taking the results from the models into the decision process. We could also then make sure that we implement that policy, and that we have a feedback loop where we can decide, is this the right project? Is this the right mechanism that we've introduced? And why? Because we have to go back to the cost-based analysis. We have to make sure we have sufficient information to make sure we've got feasible options on the table, that we assess the financial and the economic analysis, and that we get the right projects, get the right funding and the right approvals. And we need to introduce portfolio analysis, and that we update our national economic, energy and climate plans, and from that, develop the 10-year national development plans, and also have penciled in 2030 and 2040, so we can get the budgets right. And why? Because we need to apply for money from the investment plan, from the Green Deal. There's $1 trillion on the table for the next 10 years, and we need to make sure the right projects are prioritized. And the decision framework that we've looked at earlier can address this. So in conclusion, if we use decision quality to review, and then we use the framework to govern this process, we can help support the cost-benefit analysis. But we must understand this is underpinned by the Green Deal and the Energy Union strategy, and the metrics and the values that entails. And if we do that, we will develop this energy system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Can I have a reaction on the theme from Professor Chris Dent from the University of Edinburgh? Who doesn't appear to be on Zoom. So Chris, if you're on the platform, you do need to join the Zoom link that you've been sent this morning. In the meantime, we will continue with Professor Reidar Bratvold from the University of Stavanger.
Thank you. So I'm not going to talk about Andrew's work specifically. I'm going to focus on a couple of important questions related to his study and to his work. So Matthew talked about decision making, and decision making is the core of his work. So it's natural then to ask why this focus on decision making, and it's quite trivial, isn't it? Because it's only through our decisions that we can actually impact anything. Whatever we want to achieve, we can only achieve it through our decisions. So that's the only way we can impact ourselves, our own situation, our family, our corporation, our world, anything. So making good decisions seems to be a pretty vital skill. One element in decision making is uncertainty. So why is uncertainty important? Well, decisions by definition are about the future, aren't they? And the one thing we know for sure about the future is that we don't know how the future will evolve. We are uncertain about it. So a crucial element, not the only element by any means, but a crucial element of good decision making is to include uncertainty and to have a good understanding of the uncertainty involved. So the deterministic analysis part that Andrew was referring to is not really a very interesting aspect of decision making. And he did emphasize the probabilistic or uncertain nature of it. Andrew also talked a bit about good decisions. He had the phrase good decisions in his talk. And that sounds nice, doesn't it? But if I were to ask you, how can you know whether a decision is good or not? How can we judge the quality of a decision? What would your response be? In general, the society, in general, the society evaluate the decision maker, be it a corporate or a public policy decision maker, we tend to judge people on their results. So it's natural to assume that the good decision maker is one who makes good decisions, and that good decisions are those that produce good results. This is a dangerous assumption. When we evaluate decisions by their outcome, we often underestimate this role of uncertainty, the role of chance. So why did things really turn out the way they did? An outcome is determined in part by our choice and in part by luck. So it's a mix of skill and luck. And figuring out this balance between skill and luck on how things turn out is something that feeds also back into your beliefs. So this is essential because that's going to inform your future decisions. So understanding this balance between skill and luck is absolutely essential in improving your decision-making skills. And without a solid framework for examining your past decision, the lessons you learn from your experience will be compromised. And again, I'm not going to extend this, but the heart of the matter, of course, is that in an uncertain world, no approach can possibly guarantee success. So the question we should try to address is a more nuanced one. How much of a difference, if any, does one decision-making approach make relative to other approaches? And that is the effect of process on the quality of the decision. I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to finish up by referring to actually one of the founders, one of the initiators of decision analysis and also probability theory, Jacob Bernoulli, who made this point as early as in 1681, where he wrote that one must not decide about the value of human actions from their outcomes. And with that, I'm going to hand the word back to the host. Thank you.